Good afternoon. It's Robb here from Harlem Lofts. We're about to begin our third quarter webinar on the townhouse and condominium market in Upper Manhattan. It's Thursday, October the 15th. We're going to be reviewing data from January 1st through September 30th. We're going to divide this into three segments. We're going to first start off with townhouses, then with condominiums, and then we're going to talk about the effects of COVID on the market. So with me today, I'm Robb Pear. I'm the founder of Harlem Lofts. Who's Harlem Lofts? We've been around for 21 years, focusing strictly on townhouses and condominiums in the Upper Manhattan market. I have with me Gareth John. Gareth, you can introduce yourself.
Hi. So I head up the research team here at the firm.
And Gareth, we do these videos, and we've been doing them every 2 weeks since the COVID situation in March. Gareth is behind the scenes with his team doing all the research. I'm just a guy talking about it. So I'm really happy to have him with us here today because we have a couple of questions that I think people are going to ask us, and we'll be able to better answer those. So where do we start here? Okay, the townhouse market, we're going to go through quarters 1 through 3. First, let me tell you where we focus. When I say Upper Manhattan, we specifically focus on 12 zip codes. If you look at the chart there, we start at the top of Manhattan up at Inwood, and we go all the way down to Central Park, a little further south on the east side. The reason we chose these zip codes is they are representative of Upper Manhattan, and the reason we chose zip codes is so you have a definitive answer as to where this property is located, rather than a lot of the reports you see, they'll say Upper Manhattan, South Harlem, Mid Harlem. Zip codes are more specific. So we started doing this about 12, 15 years ago with our reports, and it's worked out well for us. We're going to talk about the townhouses first. So I'd like to say that all townhouses are not created equally. I have a picture of one up here on your screen. You have no idea what this property is from the paperwork details by looking at it. This particular one is an SRO. So if you look on the left there, you have 4 categories. We break them up into 4 categories. 1 to 2 family homes are simply someone who lives there. They may have a mother-in-law suite, or they may have a rental or something on the bottom, but they're not true investors. They are buying a home to live in. These people typically buy with more emotion than an investor does. So for a seller, it's good to have that market. The 3 and plus families is your next group, 3, 4, 5 families. These are considered investment properties because typically if someone has 2 rentals, they're not really trying to, they're not just trying to subsidize their income, but they're actually in the game of rental properties. Then below that, you have SROs, a single room occupancy. Most of them are located in Harlem and Upper Manhattan with another cluster in Hell's Kitchen. A lot of people don't know what these are. They're single room occupancy. They come with special rules. We'll talk a little bit about that later, but we broke them into 2 categories. One is with a certificate of no harassment, one is without, and Gareth will get into those details in a little bit. Okay, so the townhouse market. Let's compare the data from January 1st. In our videos for the last 4 months, we've been comparing it for when COVID started, but now we're going to go back to January 1 and compare it to 2020.
Okay,
Gareth?
So let's get into the other data for the townhouse market for quarters 1 to 3, 2020 versus quarters 1 to 3, 2019. Compared to 2019, in quarters 1 to 3, 2020, we saw in 2019, there were 65 fair market value transactions versus 47 in 2020. That's a 27.7% decrease. In 2019, we saw $141.2 million worth of sales versus $105.4 million in 2020. That's a 25.4% decrease. So we can break that up into pre-COVID and post initiation of the COVID situation. It's a tale of 2 completely different markets. So in quarter 1 2020, we saw 24 sales, which was very similar to quarter 1 2019. That was 25 sales. But in quarters 2 and 3 2020, we saw 21 sales, which is 47.5% below what we saw in quarters 2 and 3 2019, when we saw 40 sales. So basically in the townhouse market, COVID has reduced the market by about half.
The amount of properties that traded, not the value.
Right. Well, and we're going to get into that now.
I got you.
So if we kind of look at this kind of in more kind of detail, you can see on the left-hand graph on this slide, 2019 is in blue, 2020 is in red. We've got quarter 1, 2019 is solid blue. Then we've got quarters 2 and 3 in the kind of hashed bars. The same kind of pattern for 2020. So if we look at the number of sales in the left-hand graph, and we've got the sales volume in the right-hand graph. Once again, we can see that quarter 1, 2020, we saw 24 sales, $55.1 million, shown here and here. And then that is very similar to quarter 1, 2019. We saw 25 sales and $58.3 million. However, in quarters 2 and 3, 2020, we saw 21 sales, $45.9 million, and these were 47.5% and 44.6% lower than in 2019. 40 sales and $82 million. Okay, however, that decrease in number of sales and sales volume was not reflected in price per sale, which is a very kind of interesting trend. So if you look at the left-hand graph on this slide, that is the average sales price in 2020 versus 2019. 2019 in blue, 2020 in red, and the right-hand graph shows us the average price per square foot. So although sales volume dropped in quarters 2 and 3, 2020 versus quarters 2 and 3, 2019, the average price in 2020, that's $2.24 million, was very similar to 2019. That's $2.17 million. This is an interesting trend. It suggests that the underlying market is healthy, and once COVID stopped, once the situation fades, the underlying market should return, we think, in 2021. Okay, let's look. Rob mentioned the different classes of townhouses. So let's look at what has sold, what classes are kind of leading the market in 2020 versus 2019. That's important because it kind of shows us, are the main buyers rental investors? Are they families? Are they people looking to buy an SRO with a Con H and kind of renovate it and then either live in it or sell it on? So this is 2019 on the left of this slide, and on the right you can see 2020. And you can see that the sales volume in 2020 is lower than the volume in 2019, but we can still look at trends. So this is the number of sales in 2020 versus 2019 by class. Okay, in both 2020 and 2019, 3+ family rental investment properties, so 3, 4, 5 family rental investment properties, were the biggest kind of sector of the other market. And in 2020, we saw quarters 1 through 3, we saw 19 rental investment property sales at fair market value. And you can see that the asterisk shows it here. Okay, next came SRO renovation investment properties, which was 14 sales. And then finally, the kind of residential market, that was the kind of smallest number of sales. 2 family residential, that was 9 sales. Okay, so to summarize the Upper Manhattan townhouse market data for quarters 1 through 3, 2020, the market was stable in quarter 1, 2020, but it was impacted by COVID-19 in quarters 2 and 3. Stability, the price and price per square foot paid was stable in 2020 versus 2019. And that suggests that the impact of COVID-19 should be temporary and the market should recover. Rental investment properties, 3 to 8 families, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, they comprise 40.4% of the market. That's the largest market share. The underlying reason why rental investment properties are so kind of popular now is due to new rental laws passed in June 2019, and we have gone into the underlying kind of rationale for that in our mid-year report and in our quarter 3 report. So I think this shows you that we really pay attention to the market. We analyze the market carefully and we use this information to optimize our client objectives. So I should mention, and I'm sure that Rob will as well, we do provide weekly market analysis updates on our website and via social media, and through these kind of quarterly kind of webinar presentations. You can find all of our market analysis updates on our YouTube channel. We also have a Twitter channel, and our Facebook page contains this information. Okay, so let's go straight into part 2 of the presentation, the condominium market analysis for quarters 1 through 3, 2020. So compared to 2019, quarters 1 to 3, 2019, in 2020, we saw in 2019 there were 224 transactions versus 133 in 2020. That's a 40.7% decrease. So you can already see that the condominium market is being affected by COVID more significantly than the other townhouse market. That's a developing story, and we'll be kind of going into that in the coming weeks to see how that impact develops. In 2019, we saw $206.9 million in sales through January through September, but only 118 million in 2020. That's a 42.9% decrease. Once again, quarter 1 2020 looked very similar to quarter 1 2019. There were 70 sales in 2020 versus 69 in 2019. However, quarters 2 and 3 2020, we saw 63 sales, which was 59.4% below 2019 when we saw 155 sales. So COVID-19 reduced the market by about 60%, so more severe than the townhouse market. Okay, let's go into kind of looking at this in more detail. Similar to the graphs for the townhouse market, we've got here on the left the number of fair market value condominium sales, and on the right we have the sales volume. Once again, 2019 is in blue, 2020 is red. So quarter 1 2020, we saw 70 sales, $60.3 million, very similar to quarter 1 2019, which is 69 sales and $62.7 million. You can see that here and here. Quarter 2 and 3 2020, we saw 63 sales, $57.7 million, and that was 59.4% and 60.1% respectively lower than quarter 2, 3 2019, when we saw 155 sales and $144.6 million spent. You can see that here and here. Okay, so the average price, again, similar to the townhouse market, despite the large decrease in sales in 2020, the average price paid for a condominium, which was $887,549, was only 3.9% lower than in 2019, which is $923,661. Again, this suggests the underlying market is robust and should return in 2021. Okay, so to summarize the condominium kind of market data. The Upper Manhattan condominium market was stable in Q1 2020, but the market was impacted by COVID-19 in Q2 and 3 more severely than the townhouse market. But the stability of price paid for individual units in 2020 compared to 2019 suggests that the impact is temporary and the market should recover. Once again, I think you can see that we really do pay close attention to the market, and we use this information to optimize client objectives. Okay, so let's go into the final part of this presentation, and this is the story that's been dominating the market since March, and much of the rest of the news as well. So let's talk about how COVID-19 has impacted the upper Manhattan market, and how has it also affected how we do business, because the way we do business now is not the same as it was last year. We have studied the weekly market impact of COVID starting on March the 15th, and we, as mentioned, we do release weekly video updates on our YouTube channel.
We changed them to bi-weekly though.
That's true.
They're bi-weekly every other Thursday.
Yes, recently.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk first about how COVID-19 has impacted how we do business. These days, we make greater use of virtual walkthroughs so that customers can walk through a house from the comfort of their own home via their computer. And you can see an example of a virtual, of a 3D floor plan here. Customers can click straight into this and literally walk through the house. We use virtual showings and open houses. So, for example, our agents can go to a vacant property and use FaceTime or Zoom to literally walk potential buyers through the house. The buyers aren't even there. We're seeing virtual closings and several other changes. One of the interesting questions is, will these be temporary, or are they going to be here to stay? And it looks more and more as though they are going to be here to stay. Okay. So let's now look at how COVID has impacted the market. This is week on week. We kind of look at these, the number of sales. This is for the townhouse market, and we look at sales volume literally week by week, and we've been doing that since March. From March the 15th to September the 30th, so the left-hand graph shows the number of sales in 2019 in blue from March the 15th to now. That's in blue, and 2020 is red. And we've got sales volume, the right-hand graph. So from March 15th to September the 30th, 2020, that's the left graph, we saw 26 sales in 2020 versus 45 in 2019. That's a 42% decrease. Sales volume in the same time frame, that's the right-hand graph, we saw $60.3 million in 2020 versus 93.4 in 2019. That's a 35.4% reduction. But average price, as mentioned previously, that has remained stable. So there is hope for a recovery. So if we go from townhouse sales to townhouse listings, so what has sold to what's currently for sale, these two graphs here, I know they're busy. I'm just going to walk you through them. So these show the number of properties that are currently on the market that are offering discounts. Discounts in their listing price. So if a property is discounted, it means that the owners are keener to sell. They're adjusting the price in order to attract attention. You can see, so the bars in these graphs, the percentage of properties discounted on the left and the percentage of price discounted on the right. These bars are color-coded, and they correspond to different sectors of the market. So blue is properties below $2 million. Green is between 2 and 3. Orange is between 3 and 4, and red is 4 million plus. The graphs are fairly busy, so I'll kind of summarize for you. If you look at the orange bars, you can see and the percentage of listings priced between $3 and $4 million. The percentage of those properties offering discounts has progressively increased and now stands at 65% of properties. So that's 2/3. Properties 4 million plus in red, we have 33% now offering discounts. They were quite resistant to offering discounts until about they began to be seen about kind of August. Properties less than 2 million, so the lower end of the market, we've got 47.4% offering discounts currently. So the overall trend is towards an increase in the percentage of the market that's offering discounts. So it looks as though COVID-19 has impacted townhouse listings and the market is currently correcting. So going forward, it's difficult to predict whether sale price is going to remain stable or if it's going to decrease. And that's a story that we're following closely. Okay, so how about condominium sales? Okay, once again, on this slide, we've got on the left the number of fair market value sales, and on the right, we've got the sales volume. So from March 15th to September the 30th, 2020, we saw 68 condominium sales versus 167 in 2019. That's a 59.2% reduction. Sales volume in 2020 was $61.2 million versus 152.3 in 2019. Again, that's a 59.8% reduction. So we can see, as we saw in the whole Q1 through 3 kind of data, that the condominium market has been impacted more severely than the other townhouse market. Okay, so we've looked at townhouse sales, we've looked at townhouse listings, we've looked at condominium sales. Now we're going to look at a marker of a recovery, a kind of direct marker. And this is the inventory of kind of properties for sale. So classically, following a pandemic or recession, the inventory, that's the number of townhouses or kind of condominiums that are available for sale. Once that marker increases, that's the first marker of a recovery. So supply comes first, demand follows. So the townhouse, since New York City reopened in June, the townhouse inventory has recovered to 84 fair market value listings as of the end of September. That's from a lower of about 60 in May. Condominium listings have also recovered, and actually they may have overshot. They're currently standing at over 400 fair market value listings.
That's more than normal, definitely.
Yes, it is. To summarize the third part of this presentation, from March 15th to September the 30th, we saw 26 townhouse sales versus 45 in 2019. That's a 42% reduction. Condominium, we saw 68 sales versus 167 in 2019. That's a 59.2% reduction. So the condo market's been hit harder than the other townhouse market. The stability of price and price per square foot suggests the impact is temporary and the market will recover. Inventory has recovered, and classically supply comes first and demand comes next. Okay, so to summarize part 3 of this presentation, we do provide weekly market analysis, actually bi-weekly now, market analysis updates on our website and via social media and through our events. We're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, and Facebook too. Okay, so I'm going to hand back over to Rob for closing remarks and to answer some questions that are viewers have.
We had a couple come in. We only have a few minutes. We want to keep this to right at around 30 minutes. So one question we have, when will the market fully recover? And I can tell you, based on what Gareth presented to us, I feel that we're in a recovery. I feel there's a solid foundation. One thing you would note is we talked about the amount of discounts in the townhouses, yet we said they were closing at the same price as last year. So you just have to remember that in October through January, asking prices for townhouses were on the rise, and sometimes 15% higher than the year before, because everyone expected a recovery in January, or they expected the general market to have a really aggressive tone come January of 2020. Well, then COVID hit, so everything changed. So what's happening now, I feel like we're at the point where those asking prices went on pause, and now, as Gareth pointed out, those sellers have brought those asking prices down 15% in some cases back to where the 2019 numbers were. So now the question is, will these new prices that are the same as they were a year ago start to go into contract? I can tell you that our firm, we're a small firm, we focus on this area. We have 3 in contract, we have 3 accepted offers, and we have 2 in negotiations right now, all townhouses, not even counting the condominiums. That is more aggressive than a normal October. So it looks to me like the market is seeing activity. Where the numbers fall, we're going to follow it bi-weekly. So follow us on YouTube. But it seems to me like the foundation is strong and the market has already started to recover. We'll see what happens in the next few months. We got a lot going on with the election and COVID resurgence. Another question we have, what sectors of the market will recover first versus last? So compare Harlem to a beach. You want to be on the ocean front. Those oceanfront homes are the first to recover. If you're on the fringe of oceanfront homes, you're going to be the first to be affected. So similar to Harlem, compare the ocean to the historic districts. In my opinion, if you're in a historic district or you want to buy a property, buy one in the historic district or very close to it, because that's your stablest market, the most stable market. The properties that are on the fringes and not so great locations that normally you would purchase in a situation where you couldn't get your hands on a trophy property. If I were a buyer, I would take advantage of getting a trophy property now while they are coming to market, because in a normal market, they just don't come available, just like an oceanfront house. So I would say stick to the historic districts, right around the historic districts if you're a buyer, and you should be fine. Zip codes, the last question I have here. Zip codes, is south or north a better investment in Upper Manhattan? I'm going to go back to the same number 2. Whether it be north or south, I don't think it's as relevant anymore, because Hamilton Heights just went through the roof and actually was outselling Mount Morris Park, which is more southern, for quite some time. And it's some beautiful inventory up here. So again, I would focus around either in the historic districts or very close to them. And there's a new historic district going 130, 30th, 131, 132. That little spot is hot right now, as they extended Mount Morris Park's historic district in 2015. So stick in those areas and I think you'll be fine. The take-home message is you can find properties probably in the next year that you normally wouldn't have been able to find. So this is an opportunity for a buyer to land a trophy property.
Okay.
All right?
Yep.
So listen, thanks again. We're Harlem Lofts. We do this bi-weekly report every 2 weeks on Thursday. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll get it right away. Otherwise, you can just search us on YouTube, but subscribing will get you the data quicker. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks, and stay safe out there.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.